Hey everyone, it's Zach, the Money Nutritionist, and I've got a question for you. Is there anything you're doing or not doing today that in 5 or 10 years you will say to yourself, dang, I regret that? From deep in my soul. So my girlfriend and I were going on a trip to the beach, and you have that typical conversation of, hey, do you have any regrets in life? Is there anything you wish you would have or wouldn't have done? And we had our answers, and then I thought to myself, well, let me flip this a little bit. And I asked, is there anything that you are or aren't doing today that in 5 to 10 years you would regret it? And she didn't have an answer, so she asked me what my answer was. And I thought for a minute, and I said, you know what? If I didn't live in another country, I would probably regret not doing that while I had the chance. I'm super excited for us to be going and living in Granada, Nicaragua. So I'm pleased to announce today that there will be a series of Nicaragua living for 2 months. Initially, we thought about doing Costa Rica. It's a more developed country. It just seemed a bit safer and it seemed more American friendly. So we started looking at Costa Rica and we chose Jaco on the Pacific coast. And we actually picked a place there. It was a little casita, which is just a little house with its own private pool on the outside. And we were going to stay just outside the city limits of Jaco. But, you know, we were about to pull the trigger on paying for the place through Airbnb. And we thought to ourselves, let's just make sure that's where we want to go. So we started scanning all up and down Central America. And we chose Central America because the flights were going to be reasonable. And we knew we wanted to learn Spanish and salsa and experience that culture. So that's why we chose Central America. And we wanted to just make sure that it was the right place. And funny enough, it wasn't. So we went everywhere from Ecuador all the way up through El Salvador and maybe a little bit into Mexico. And we landed on Nicaragua. The reason we chose Nicaragua was because it was a lot cheaper than Costa Rica. And we came to find out that in Jaco, it was actually a little more dangerous than other places. So Jaco was called the Little Miami of Costa Rica. Jaco was more of a party style city, so that didn't really fit the vibe we were going for. We wanted to engulf ourselves in a culture, and come to find out, it wasn't that safe in Jaco. The next place we looked was Tamarindo, which is on the North Pacific side of Costa Rica, but it was an expat town, which was highly expensive for being in another country. So we decided against that, but we are going to stay there for a few days. So the itinerary we chose is we're flying into Liberia, Costa Rica, because the flights there were cheaper than flying into Nicaragua. We are going to then drive up into San Juan del Sur in Nicaragua. So San Juan del Sur is the vacation spot of Nicaragua on the Pacific coast. It's a small surf town and it seems extremely pretty, and the stay prices there aren't that expensive. So we'll be taking a full week vacation at the beach in Nicaragua. And then after that, we'll be going to Granada, Nicaragua, and staying there for 48 days. So Granada is an old Spanish town. As soon as I saw the pictures, that's exactly where I felt the most comfortable, because I love the Spanish vibe. I love Spain. I would love to retire or at least have a La Casa in Spain one day. The town looks beautiful. It's extremely safe, and come to find out, the prices were a lot cheaper than Costa Rica. So we were getting a bigger bang for our buck by just going to Nicaragua, even though they're not as developed as Costa Rica. But that's great because a lot of the land and the tourism hasn't overtaken the area, so it's still kind of untouched there. After Granada, we're then going to Tamarindo and Coco Beach, Costa Rica. So then we'll be staying there for roughly 4 days, which will be the last weekend we're out of the country. And then we'll be flying back from Liberia back to the States. Some things we figured out about Granada is that it was a lot cheaper. That was a big reason we decided to stay there. I think the difference, we ended up getting a place on Airbnb that was under $1,000 for almost the 2 full months. That's insanely cheap. And this place had 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, full kitchen. It was downtown and it had its own pool for $1,000. So we were like, yeah, we're jumping on that. But the problem was it didn't have AC. And my understanding, it's 90 degrees there and extremely hot. So we made a deal with the owners that we would split the cost of an AC unit, which was about $250, and they were gonna pay 60% of it and we were gonna pay 40% of it. So what we found out is if you're going to stay for a long period of time somewhere, just message the owner and see if they can cut a deal with you on a discount since you're staying extra days. And usually they will accommodate you. They'll have house cleaners and all types of things like that come. So they'll cut you a deal if you're staying for a long period of time because they don't have the vacancies they have to worry about. Some cool things about traveling to Central America that we found out is a lot of the places come with a house cleaner. They'll even cook for you. A bunch of places had pools that we were looking at. So they get garden and pool maintenance, security sometimes, and everything is extremely cheap. So there'll be more to come on that while we're actually there, and I'm releasing footage of our trip in Nicaragua. But a lot of things are extremely inexpensive. For instance, we are about a block from a gym. So at the gym, I believe you can get a 60-minute massage, a facial, a manicure, and a pedicure for $40. So I will definitely tell you for sure if that was the price. But online, that's what it was listed, $40 for all of those things. So there are a lot of upsides to being in Nicaragua. Things are cheap. The places weren't that expensive. And people seem extremely nice. It's untouched, beautiful land. You've got the beaches. You got Granada, which is on a huge lake. It's an old Spanish town, lots of culture, lots of history. And we're super excited about making this journey for the length of time that we're able to go. But all of that does come with a few things to worry about. So a few negative things that we did run into is that our Airbnb owner actually backed out on us. So I got an email that said, hey, there's a problem with the roof. The roof's not going to be worked on until April, and that's a month before rainy season. So we don't think we're gonna have the roof done in time for your visit. And we were left with no place to stay. And this was last month. So then we're only 4 months out before going, and we had to scramble and try to find another place. Unfortunately, the place we ended up landing on is 4 times as expensive as the first place. There were other alternatives, but we're taking the dogs with us. So it's gonna be me, my girlfriend, and 2 pets. So we needed a place where they could run around, that accepted pets, that was large enough, and that had AC. So there were maybe only 4 places to choose from, and we ended up choosing not even the most expensive one. So it's 4 times more expensive, but it's extremely nice. It's a house that has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, full kitchen. It's got a pool in the backyard, but it's a beautiful place. Yes, it's an upgrade, but it was more expensive. We weren't really trying to get somewhere that was that expensive, but it is what it is at this point. I'd rather be comfortable than worrisome all the time, especially because I'll be working there. So I needed a place that had good internet, that was quiet. So a hotel wasn't gonna quite cut it for us. So that was one downside. So another negative is that about 2 years ago, the dictator that they have there, as they say, Ortega, ended up murdering a bunch of people because they had a political uprising. So as long as we're not political while we're there, we should be fine. You can go look up anything you need to about Nicaragua and Ortega online. I'm not gonna go into the details, but I will say we will be on our P's and Q's. We're not gonna be political while we're there. We'll be working and just experiencing the area. And as with anywhere that you travel, you have to just be aware that at night, there's going to probably be pickpockets and thieves. So that's anywhere that you go, you have to be careful. Nicaragua didn't have any cities that were the top dangerous places in the world. America has 3 or 4, I believe. Detroit and Baltimore are for sure on that list. So it's another country, yeah, people may say it's dangerous, but years ago during the Civil War, yeah. But it just has the stigma now. But a lot of vacationers are starting to go there a lot more, and you for yourselves will be able to see how beautiful it is when we get there. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. We are taking the dogs, as I said, and we got carriers for them. Your pets can't be over 20 pounds, and you have to have a USDA approved veterinarian, get them paperwork. So that's been taken care of. You do have to pay for their flights. It's $125 per pet per way. So that's going to be an extra $500 to take the dogs, but we're not paying any money to board them. So that's one thing we had to work on. We had to get the places. You can do all of that online. We are traveling to 3 different locations in 2 countries. We'll be gone for 2 months. And after we got all of that set up, everything else was good to go. Yes, there's coronavirus coming, I know, so we did buy insurance. Airbnb has a great policy that if something like that happens, then they will also refund your money as well. Yes, we've never been there. We just kind of picked a place that looked nice and was affordable and was a bit different vibe. I look forward for you to experience things through our lenses, so it should be super interesting for you to follow along with. And I'll be releasing videos while we're there. And if anyone has any questions about traveling to Nicaragua or the things we've experienced, let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to stay updated on the latest. But more importantly, to stay updated on YouTube, press the subscribe button below.